Good morning, my Fu Man friends, and welcome to the last day of March. I haven't done a video for a while, and I know I had talked about doing some testimonies, and I just felt like maybe today was a good time to do it with everything that's going on in the world, and just to bring you a little bit of encouragement. And I caution you now, it's just going to take just a few minutes or should I say a few minutes for this one. But I think that this will really encourage you and really let you know that God is who He says He is. He is interactive in your life. He's a part of your life. All you have to do is make Him that, ask Him into it. And so, like I said, this may take just a few minutes, but I just want to let you know, it's been several years ago that my son, he was training for triathlons, and I got to run with him when I was still a runner, and we're going to try to get back to that. But, my son was training for a triathlon, and him and I got to do a race together, and it was after a race that he started having headaches. He started, they wouldn't go away. They just kept persisting. So a week later, we took him to the hospital, and they checked him out. They did an x-ray, and they said, well, there's nothing going on. It's no big deal. Well, luckily, that was a Saturday. On a Sunday morning, there was a ER physician that just happened to be very involved in triathlons and was training with him. And whenever he got to work that morning, he saw that my son had come into the hospital. And so he went to look at the x-rays, and he said, I think that there's a problem here. So he called the house that morning, and he said, I need to talk to him. So he talked to my son, and he told him, he said, I think you have an arachnoid cyst on your brain. He said, I want you to come back to the hospital, and he said, I want to do an MRI. Well, we take him to the hospital, they do the x-ray, and he had the MRI done, and it confirmed that he had an arachnoid cyst on his brain. Now, we didn't have a family doctor at the time, and my wife had one, so she got a hold of her and said, hey, this is what we're dealing with. And she had a friend who was a physician's assistant in Morgantown and just happened to work for a neurologist. So she makes some phone calls and gets him in pretty quick, but we still had to wait, a couple months. And like I said, my son, he's gets a little emotional here, but he's been training for this triathlon for months. And so when Morgantown found out, they called and they said, tell him to quit doing everything. No more training, no more doing anything, and we need to see him first. Well, he's got this triathlon coming up in Pittsburgh the following week. And it's like, man, how do we do this? Here he's been training all this time to participate. And now Morgantown is saying, don't do anything. So I just start crying out to God. And I said, okay, God, what do I tell him? What do I need to do? He's been training all this time. And so I'm standing in my kitchen. And I'm praying, and I'm saying, okay, God, what do I need to do? And I just felt like God said, go to the river. You need to get down there and pray and just meditate on it. I said, okay. Well, for those that may not know, I live right along the banks of the mighty Ohio River. The river is my backyard. But I've never taken the opportunity to come down here and pray before. But I just felt led to come down here. So I walk out the back door and I walk down to the river. Well, can I say that as I walk down to the river, somewhere about that spot right there, I see this crazy person swimming in the river. Like I said, they're swimming in the river 20 yards out from when I get down here. And I look, my first thought is who's the idiot swimming in the river? As I looked a little bit further, I realized that this was the emergency room doctor who had originally diagnosed what it was. And like I said, he competed in triathlons and doing all that kind of stuff, and he was swimming. Well, just as I get down here, he's swimming back so he can get out of the water. I walked over to him and I said, Benny, I said, I think you're the one that's supposed to answer my question. I said, here's what we got going on. I said, I don't know what to tell him. And he said, you know, he said, the way I look at it, he said, he's already pushed himself harder now than he ever will in a race. If it's me, he said, I'd go ahead and do the race. He said, you know, he said, God will protect us from our stupidities. He said, if you get up Sunday morning and he said, you get ready to do the race and he's got 2 flat tires on his bike, he said, you know, he said, maybe I don't do it. But he said, as of now, he said, I think I'll do it. I said, okay. I said, that's all I needed to hear. So I went back up to the house. I had one of the hardest things to do, and that was to convince Mama. Because any mamas out there know that they're very protective of their children. So I walked in and I told my wife, I said, this is what just happened. I said, I was praying in the kitchen. I said, I walked down to the river and I said, I meet Vinny swimming 20 yards out in the river. And I said, this is what he said. So I said, I think we need to go to Pittsburgh. And she said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. She said, well, but I have my doctor who got us into this neurologist and we got into all this stuff and, you know, God's working in that. And I said, I realize that, but what's the chances that I go to the river and I go to pray and Vinny's swimming 20 yards out from me in the river? I said, I've never seen him swimming in the river before. I said, I think that's what we need to do. She said, okay, if you're sure. And I said, I'm trusting God for it. So then I went to my son's room and I said, listen to me. I said, I know you're upset right now and everything, but I said, I need you to pray. And I said, I need you to listen. I said, it's going to be really hard for you to listen at the moment. But I said, I need you to just ask God what you need to do. I said, and you need to listen closely. But I said, we're going to Pittsburgh. So we load up. We go to Pittsburgh. And we start out that morning. We do the swim. Comes back. Do the bike. Takes off on the run. And he finished, I think it was first or second in his age group. And after that happened, he shut down, he quit training, he quit doing anything until we went to Pittsburgh, or to Morgantown to see the doctor. The doctor took care of everything and he's fine now. There's not a problem. But I just want you to know that with all this stuff going on in the world right now, with the coronavirus, with everything that's happening, the stuff that's going on in the world, I want you to know something. God hears you. God will answer your prayers. You know, it's a time to pray. It's a time to listen. It's a time to use that opportunity to allow Him to work. You know, anything through that whole process, we could have derailed it. You know, we ain't never seen the opportunity that God provides. It's pretty amazing what God will do if you just trust Him and listen to Him. So I want to encourage you today, as things may not be the way you want them in the world, as opportunities seem to get torn away from you, I want you to trust in God. I want you to pray to Him, and I want you to listen to Him, because God will take care of your situations and circumstances around you, but it's a matter of you trusting in Him. Because I tell you what, you know, the Bible says that we walk by faith, not by sight. It would have been very easy for us to not have gone to Pittsburgh, because walking by sight, that wasn't a smart thing. But walking by faith, it was the only way. So I encourage you today to just get to know God. Trust in Him. Talk to Him. And let Him guide your steps when everything seems messed up. So I know I went over a little longer than what I normally do, but I hope this encourages you. I hope that you understand that God is still on His throne. So I'm going to get off here. I don't want to keep you any longer, but I want you to know, I want you to remember that He loves you, and so do I.